May not let me do that. WrestleZone. Let me do that again because we're dealing with all these different audio issues. We have new streaming stuff. Let's do it one more time. As if
they weren't playing around, were they?
It wasn't playing around. WrestleZone. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kev Callum. We are coming to you live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. That's right. This is the first time we've ever joined you on all three apps at the same time. This is our WrestleZone post show. If you were live with us, bear with us here as we're doing this for the first time on three different apps at the exact same time. How are you? Get your comments on screen. If you're with us for the first time, go ahead and shout out where you guys are watching from. We already have people saying, who the daddy? We will find out, Lee Allen, who. As we found out tonight on Monday Night Raw, Lacey Evans is pregnant, and she could be pregnant with geriatric Ric Flair. Still Space Mountain. It is the oldest ride in the park, but it still goes. Say it with me, John Clark, my co-host. All night long. There we go. John, you just wanted to get the woo in there. What's up, everybody? How you doing? If you're with us as well, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're watching for free, you can just simply do that. There's no free thing you have to do. There's no money. It's all free. So if you give us a like and you watch the show and you enjoy it, that's wonderful. All right, let's get right into it here. Plenty to cover. This is the Monday Night Raw. This is the Monday Night Raw before Elimination Chamber, which a lot of people see Elimination Chamber as kind of like the conference final before WrestleMania. What do you think of this Elimination Chamber gauntlet match that took over the entire last hour of Monday Night Raw? I'm going to say this. I think this is one of the best Raw matches we've seen in months. Raw needed a really banger match to set up a pay-per-view. It needed something special on the road to WrestleMania. People have been down on the road to WrestleMania, specifically on the Raw side. I thought this was a marked improvement, and I thought this match made a lot out of not just the guy who was standing at the end of it, but the people that even got eliminated within the match. What did you think of it?
Overall, a very good match for it being over an hour long. When it first started, I was thinking, oh, here we go, over an hour. But, with these six-man gauntlets, that typically is the case. It wasn't bad at all, though. By any means, it was not a bad match. It was pretty good. Everybody really got their time to shine, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Nobody looked bad. I mean, even Jeff Hardy for a minute. I mean, not anything against Jeff Hardy, but he's the underdog out of everybody in this match, you have to think. Him and Kofi, but they both looked very good in the match. Kofi pulling double duty, Styles in there over 30 minutes. Overall, a very good match. I'm happy with the result, but am I happy with the result? Because as we get into the show, and we'll talk more about this, what we saw tonight left me with a little bit of fear, and I'll tell you why.
Well, we had quite the build-up to the gauntlet match within the 3-hour show, which I thought good on WWE for making this not just, hey, we're doing this match later on, tune in for it. And the match itself is a long thing. Raw is a long show. So I will say Raw, since it's gone 3 hours several years ago, they've utilized this gauntlet match a handful of times, and sometimes it's been effective. One time it was one of the longest matches that WWE ever did. I think it was over 2 hours, the single match. And that made history when they did that. I thought this was effective as well. And also, they did some shenanigans at the beginning of the night with Miz pulling himself out of the Elimination Chamber, saying, I have the money in the briefcase. Why would I put myself through an Elimination Chamber if I can just walk out and cash in on you? Drew McIntyre not taking any of that as he got attacked by his friend last week, Sheamus, and he just headbutts him. Miz cuts a promo, setting up later on in the night, him going to Adam Pearce saying, why don't you just give it to my friend Morrison? Why don't you just have Morrison take my spot? I want to give back, which is really just, him being a real chicken shiz. This prompts the New Day to interrupt him later on in a backstage segment and prompt Kofi Mania Part 2. I saw people on wrestling Twitter lose their mind at this, and we got a really, really great match where Kofi Kingston took on The Miz, where if Kofi won, he got into the gauntlet match later on in the night and could basically set himself up for a certain spot within the Elimination Chamber. Winner of the gauntlet got the last spot in Sunday's Elimination Chamber. This was a really great singles match, too. I thought Miz looked like a really mean, cut any corner that he could, heel, nearly dropping Kofi on his head several times on the apron. And this is one of the better Miz matches we've seen in a long time.
Absolutely. It was a pretty good match. Mm-hmm. I'm more intrigued by what the plan is for him, because to just remove himself from the match and say, look, I want to do this on my watch. There's no point in me being in a chamber match and maybe getting hurt. But look, I just don't see him cashing in this weekend either. I think at this point it has to be at WrestleMania or shortly after. I feel like we're too late in the game to shake things up that dramatically unless he's just going to win it or even lose when he cashes in.
And a lot of people thought maybe they would even do that tonight on Monday Night Raw, especially after you lost to Kofi Kingston in that match. Kofi getting himself into the gauntlet later on. And Kofi, unfortunately, having to start the gauntlet with a kind of a banged-up knee against AJ Styles. AJ cut a promo. He was in the mix. Xavier Woods got attacked by Omos. AJ's big, very, very tall, heavy muscle at ringside. Started off a great round of action, the whole hour escalating. Drew McIntyre getting in there, going over, I believe, over 35 minutes. So when he got pinned at the end of the night, he didn't look too bad by getting booted in the face by Sheamus. I also thought Jeff Hardy, as you mentioned, had a great showing in this, but this makes Sheamus look like a real threat. He pinned the WWE champion 1, 2, 3. All right. Him and the WWE champion have some real issues. If you told me a few weeks ago that I would have increased interest in the budding feud, or I would say blossoming feud between Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, I wouldn't agree with you. I'm not saying I'm sold on it, but I'm certainly more into it than I was 6 days ago.
Yeah, and let me explain to you now why I said I was a little bit in fear about this. And the reason is because the fact that Sheamus will be the last entrant, it's almost a guarantee that Drew and him will come face-to-face again at some point on Sunday, which I think they'll probably be the last two left. I hope this doesn't take away from the plans that these two are going to have a WrestleMania match. A couple of our colleagues in our WrestleZone group chat still think that this is going to be a Fastlane match. But that still leaves me thinking, then what is the plan for Drew at Mania? He needs to have a plan. People have floated the idea of possibly Brock Lesnar returning. We have Braun Strowman in the mix tonight on Raw now. He'll need something to do. I still think the right decision would be to go with Sheamus and Drew at Mania, but it looks like they're putting these two, head-to-head right now and not holding off on this. So, I mean, what do you think? Are they going to drag this out till Mania, or do you think this is only a filler feud until Mania?
I don't know. I think if WWE wants to make the road to WrestleMania something that's compelling, we know this from modern wrestling fans. Fans want surprises. A Money in the Bank cash-in is a big surprise, a surprise that is built up to, but you're told to keep your eyes open for it at all times. And the road to WrestleMania, as we've known in the last 10 years, in the years where it's more compelling, there's surprises in it. There was a bunch of surprises for Kofi Mania when he got there to the mountain. There was a lot of ups and downs for Daniel Bryan when he got to WrestleMania. And both those men didn't win the Royal Rumble to get there. So it really was built on the week-to-week television, winning different matches, having obstacles put in front of you, and overcoming them to eventually get to the mountaintop, right? This is almost an inverse of that, where it's the villain is not an authority figure. It's a wrestler like The Miz, prompting all these different things and putting them in front of himself. Now he's kind of bumbling and not looking that great. We have some people asking about Bad Bunny. Yes, Bad Bunny is the new WWE 24/7 champion. We'll talk about that.
Need to address real quick. Address this comment from Vernon asking if the Miz has to cash in before WrestleMania. No, he has to cash in before Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
Yeah, he has it for one calendar year, from one Money in the Bank to the next. Unless they want to get really play some real shenanigans with the specific date. They could if they really wanted to go there.
But then we would have two Money in the Bank holders at the same time.
True, and that would be different. Leave it to WWE to not want to play around with that here.
They're listening to you. They're listening to you right now.
We'll talk about Bad Bunny. We'll talk about all the different stuff. If you guys are with us for the first time, remember you can get your comments on screen with us live in real time. To the podcast people, wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast everywhere in the world. We produce hours and hours of everything. We got a great response to our brand new fantasy booking show called WCW Rewritten. We're dropping new episodes of that every other Thursday. You get the WrestleZone wrap-ups. If you are still catching up on last night's NXT TakeOver, John and I did the TakeOver post-show. What an amazing show that was. One of the highest rated shows that we've had from fans in a long, long time on our 1 to 10 scale. And we'll ask for that 1 to 10 scaling of this week's Monday Night Raw. Overall, I thought they did a really good job of selling this Sunday's Elimination Chamber match on the Raw side, a lot more than last week. The pacing of a gauntlet match feels like an Elimination Chamber match, except Sunday we get the gimmick, we get the cage.
Yeah, and as far as the Raw side goes, obviously because we saw Raw tonight, the build was pretty good for that. Right now, though, I was a little disappointed with the build we got tonight regarding Bobby Lashley and the United States Championship. We're getting that triple threat match this weekend, but it didn't really seem like they did a whole lot to really build up towards that. And then we'll get into the women here. We're still not completely sure what's going on. It looks like WWE now lists it as Asuka versus to be announced. So it looks like they did remove Lacey. Not sure on that, though.
Let's get into the Lacey Evans issue. Yes. Lacey Evans is coming out to the ring. She was scheduled prior to this tag team match to take on Asuka, the Raw Women's Champion, who is still tag teaming with Charlotte Flair for this Sunday's title match. Charlotte's still in this long-term issue here with Lacey, who has Ric Flair, Charlotte's dad, on her arm, and the illusion of a relationship, and all these different things, and all these nods, and Space Mountain, and wooing, and all this different stuff, right? She does her gimmick. She has Peyton Royce at her side. They bring up the Valentine candy, and it says, "Bite me." Bunch of fun, silly, gaga stuff that Lacey Evans is pretty good at doing, this ridiculous stuff here. But it got a lot more ridiculous. The tag team match starts. It is Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce versus Asuka and Charlotte. Lacey doesn't get in the ring, even hides behind the corner post, and lets Peyton take all the action. And she's supposed to tag in. She jumps off the apron, walks away, tells Charlotte, "Get away from me! Don't touch me! I'm not going to do this because I'm pregnant." This has prompted comments like Tony Briggs saying Lacey Evans is trashy. She's ridiculous. People just yelling, "Woo!" Lee Allen yelling, "The blue pill is now." Well, maybe some blue pills were taken. We are not sponsored by Blue Chew. We are not sponsored by them. We're sponsored by we're not sponsored by Blue Chew. We're sponsored by gas station dick pills. That's the WrestleZone sponsor.
Especially for the first few minutes after the conclusion of this match, mostly because the comments coming through about the storytelling being trash, or you wonder why people don't watch the show anymore. Mm-hmm. And then less than 10 minutes later, Wrestling Inc. breaks a report that hasn't been confirmed yet, but a report that Lacey Evans is actually legitimately pregnant. So
we'll wait to hear word from Lacey Evans to have that confirmed officially by her. I don't think unless we get that from her, we're going to go with it. Let's wait here. Let's sound off on this issue. This is maybe something they found out about in the last week, right? Maybe something that reality has become an issue for WWE and they have to work around it. Certainly, it writes itself into the storyline to a degree.
I'm guessing that's the case. I mean, we're not going to speculate or make false news, but that's what I think is probably happening. Mm-hmm. So I'm like I was talking about originally for this Sunday. I'm interested to see what the plan is. I think they'll revert back to the original. What I thought was going to happen was Charlotte turning her back on Asuka. That's probably what's going to happen now. But what do you think?
I wonder if Peyton Royce is going to be slotted into something.
Oh, God, no, please,
on Sunday, and they're going to find some way to still have Lacey at ringside and work this thing around some way. A lot of people don't want that to happen. William T. Wage is saying the craziest thing I think this could happen is if Becky Lynch is a surprise at Elimination Chamber to take on Asuka. That is the person she gave that title to. We have Becky Lynch a few months removed from having a child of her own.
She'll be back. I don't think this Sunday, especially with with everything going on to Mania. I just don't think that would be the right time. I think if she really wanted to, the perfect time would be like the Raw after Mania or something like that. I don't think right now is really the right time for that, and I don't really think she has an interest of doing so right now. But I've been wrong before.
People who are with us every single night, I do want your feedback. What do you guys think of the new setup? What do you think of the new streaming software? To you, it doesn't look any different. To us, it's operating a little bit different. We don't know if it's still looking good for you. Continue to sound off on us. I do want to talk about this. We did several developments on Monday Night Raw. One we had last week was Kofi Kingston, The New Day, Xavier Woods versus the always kind of maligned disrupting faction known as Retribution. We didn't get any of them this week. We did get a lot of Kofi teasing Kofi Mania Part 2, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. Is Kofi in the Elimination Chamber match this Sunday then?
Yes, he is confirmed to be in the match.
There was a little bit of confusion on that with me. I didn't have that in my notes, but they brought up the gauntlet match. I was like, does he have to win the gauntlet match to get in? They were reminding you of what they did with him last year, where they really set the odds against him and he could beat those odds. He had to do several gauntlet matches last year, so I did enjoy that throwback. I did like WWE trying the line of logic for long-term fans. He did this 2 years ago. Can he do it again? Which has been a lot of the dialogue.
You know what they're doing here, right? You know what they're doing here.
What do you think they're doing?
Kofi gets the opportunity. He fights his way into the match, and we're going to see Ali show up and be like, again, I got passed up for an opportunity for this clown, and we're going to probably have a match. I honestly think they will probably slot into the Mania card in some capacity, whether that be a triple threat tag match with the Hurt Business for the titles or their own match, maybe on the pre-show or main show or whatever. I think that is what each of these two teams will be doing this WrestleMania.
Of course, shout out to everyone joining the show over on YouTube. If you guys haven't done it, go ahead and subscribe to our channel there. Hit the like button, subscribe, all this stuff.
Periscope.
Periscope. Oh, is Periscope still going to be an app by the end of the year? That may be taken off Twitter. So we're streaming on Twitter for the first time just to see what it's like. So if you guys are enjoying it, go ahead and give it a retweet there as well. And do want to talk about this. The situation with the Hurt Business. You brought this up. We had a 6-man tag match, the Lucha House Party, Lince Dorado, Grand Metalik tagging with Matt Riddle versus the Hurt Business in a feud that seems like it will never end and goes on and on and on again in a 6-man tag match against the Hurt Business. MVP, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, Matt Riddle picking up a big win here. The Broton Bomb off the top rope. This looked nasty. He pinned MVP, only for Bobby Lashley to come out and put the Hurt Lock on him again and put him to sleep, make him look like a big buffoon. They've been doing this stance for a long, long time. This thing is way too long in the tooth, right?
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is Bobby Lashley probably dominate Riddle this weekend, and we're going to finally get that one-on-one Lashley and Keith Lee program heading into Mania, which I think is what is the best for what they have right now. It just kind of sucks to see Riddle finally get the opportunity, but he's kind of just lost every time. And, who knows where he'll fit into the fray next. It's just hard to tell. I mean, last year after Mania, we saw they did a little bit of a small, what they called the superstar shakeup. Be interesting to see if we get something like that again this year or not. I think Riddle would be one of the perfect contenders to move over to SmackDown. But like I said, I just don't see him getting anywhere right now.
A lot of good, fun things here on Monday at Raw. This was a show that was 3 hours, even with one match that went nearly an hour by itself. I thought this was a well-paced show for 3 hours. Am I wrong? I didn't feel like anything was, even the stuff that wasn't particularly great, felt more eventful, felt more paced. Even that match, I say, where it's long in the tooth, that match itself was entertaining. The storyline itself, I could win and lose it. I could lose it. I mean, if they did something different with Riddle and the Hurt Business, but I thought the pacing of Raw was particularly elevated tonight. Am I wrong?
It wasn't bad. I thought it was better than probably usual. It's just they're still stuck in this rut where it's like they're at the point where they really have to impress you to make it look good, because it's been so average for so long that it's so hard for it to be stellar at this point. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about this backstage. Bad Bunny, the hip-hop superstar from Latin America, the most popular person out of Puerto Rico at the moment. He is backstage with Damian Priest. They're talking. A kerfuffle is heard off camera. They turn around. It's Akira Tozawa in a backstage, happens anytime, 24/7 championship match with the very, very ridiculous R-Truth. He pins him. He steps backwards. He just steps backwards, only to be pinned by Bad Bunny. And Bad Bunny is the new WWE 24/7 champion. This leads into Bad Bunny appearing this Saturday night on network television on one of the most popular TV shows, at least for the weekend television schedule, and Saturday Night Live. You also had in the same segment R-Truth yelling as Bad Bunny ran off with the title, "Tell Lorne Michaels to pick up my phone calls." That Lorne Michaels is the producer of Saturday Night Live, if you don't know. And that means Are we getting a WWE match, quote unquote, on Saturday Night Live?
I think so. At least he's definitely going to have the title with him. I mean, that's obvious. As far as if we see R-Truth either winning the title or being there or whatever, that's more of a wild card. But the title will definitely appear on the show. And this is the exact reason why they are not getting rid of this title, because it's that exposure they can get. Mm-hmm. The casual fan doesn't know how silly of a championship is. They just see him with a championship.
I think even a casual fan would know how silly it is, and that it is the goofball title. But for as much comedy as WWE does, this thing is warranted. I think it's warranted for the publicity it's going to get you. If you as WWE could go to any popular TV show and say, hey, let's do something fun and have our comedy champion come on your show and you can beat him for the title. And then we'll film something on socials and have our guy win the title back. Now, to a lot of people, this just devalues the championships or anything like that. But the 24/7 championship is a joke anyway. It's just a joke. It's a fun joke. It's a joke that I think is warranted for WWE to play when they have so many underground characters. There's times when it's too ridiculous and it doesn't do too much for me. But if this gets WWE on Saturday Night Live, like a month away from them launching on Peacock, which is an NBC property, right? And what's going to be one of the bigger shows on Peacock? Saturday Night Live. So why not do that?
And let's not forget who else is there. Colin and Michael are there too.
Yeah, so you're gonna have Colin Jost and Michael Shea are going to be there. Are they going to try and win the belt? Could they do something throughout the night where different people are trying to win the title? I don't know. I got to look up who's the guest, who's the SNL host this weekend. I don't know the exact information. But the thing is, SNL is also a super popular show on social media. I mean, this is a show that gets a lot of people talking. It also gets people talking Sunday into Monday. So this could even be a bump for that Monday Night Raw, if you will. Pay-per-views the next night, too. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're definitely going to see that, and I'm perfectly okay with it. And look, nothing wrong with it.
What if this is the thing that's cut? SNL, they do stuff where they'll film the entire show just to be safe early on in the night, and then they'll do it live. So if there's an issue and they can't broadcast live, they can send the NBC affiliates the tape version of the show they did earlier in the night. And what if this is something that's cut for time? If they have this match and it's ready to go, and maybe one of the performances goes too long, or Weekend Update goes too long, and they're like, sorry, WWE Championship match, you got cut for time. I could see something ridiculous like that happening. Also, if you guys are watching and you're SNL fans, tell me your favorite SNL sketch. I'm a big SNL fan. I think it's one of the main reasons I got Peacock before the Steelers even announced. I want to watch every SNL possible. Definitely chime in here. So people giving us their Raw ratings. Is it too early for us to give our Raw rating time? Give us your 1 to 10. It's not too early.
You do the honors.
Let's do the honors. I thought this was a pretty strong episode of Raw. I'm giving it. This is one of the most marked, improved week-to-week wrestling shows. I thought last week's Raw was underwhelming. This makes me excited for Elimination Chamber, which only had like a 3-week build. If you're going to build to a 3-week gimmick match, do something that adds to that gimmick. And a gauntlet match is an Elimination Chamber match with a cage. Thought it was a smart idea. Makes me think that Sheamus could do something. Makes me think Miz could cash in. It does feel like Drew McIntyre is indeed in trouble. We have people giving it a 7.5. We have some people giving it a 7. Some people giving it a 7.5. Dog. I'm going to go with dog, bark, bark, a 7.5. A 7.5. William T. Wage is predicting what I was going to do here on the show. What do you think?
7.
7. Why not the 7.5?
It's just, I don't know. It's missing something.
It's missing something. What is Raw missing for you? It's a 3-hour show. I think a 3-hour show is just hard to pull off.
I'll tell you when I get it. How about that? whenever I see it, I'll know that okay, this is what they needed, but they just need something.
Thank you for the secondary opinion of everything going on in WWE. Let's get into the other stories of the day. We do have some rollover from what happened this weekend with NXT TakeOver. If you have not checked it out yet, we had a hell of a time covering the NXT TakeOver card from Vengeance Day. I thought it was one of the best takeovers in a row. WWE on a 2-day roll here. 2 good shows from WWE. But we do have some unfortunate news from WWE backstage. Our very own Tyler Treese posting this story earlier today, and Wrestling Inc. Breaking this one earlier today. WWE is reportedly cracking down on talent that use their social media accounts to promote third-party businesses, like people, like brands, charities even. This is an interesting thing because this follows up the issue in September that says, this is a statement from WWE at the time, much like Disney and Warner Brothers, WWE creates, promotes, invests its intellectual property, i.e. the stage names of performers like The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and name several others. It is the control and exploitation of these characters that allows WWE to drive revenue, which in turn enables the company to compensate performers at the highest level in sports entertainment industry. Notwithstanding the contractual language, it is imperative for the success of our company to protect our greatest assets and establish partnerships with third parties on a company-wide basis rather than an individual level, which as a result will provide more value for all involved. Now, this follows up some news that we've heard today about figures that 2 particular members of Raw, we saw Lana in action tonight. She was in there with Shayna Baszler. Pretty fair match for her. She did tap out, where she pulled in nearly $500,000 in endorsement money in 2020 on her social media platform, which is significant. Mandy Rose pulled in a pretty penny as well. What do you think of this when we start to hear numbers that people are making? We've heard, Zelina Vega left WWE in November because of the dispute like this. You had Paige being very vocal about it. You had AJ Styles just shut down his Twitch channel where he was making money on subscriptions. This is quite the debate amongst WWE fans. What do you think of this most recent development of WWE cracking down on it yet again?
So, are you essentially asking me if I'm okay with it, or basically my opinion of it, or what are you asking?
Your opinion of it. I mean, to a point, I'm okay with it because we know what they were going to do in November. You know where the line has been drawn at this point. I wish wrestlers could do their own thing on their own side and not have as much of a conflict on it. But what are we putting at a comment or something like that?
Pull up the comment from Justin Warner. That this basically summarizes what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. WWE owns the names and likenesses of their wrestlers. They can do what they want. I'm fully supportive of them banning any third party without permission, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. The last thing they need is say, a superstar is getting a promotion or supporting. I'm not even going to name a company, but just imagine any company in your head. And then this company gets in trouble tomorrow for some PR nightmare, and then this comes back on them. It's very much within their right to limit anything they want to regarding this, and it's probably in the fine print of the contract when they sign it. And look, I understand they're losing income here. I understand that there was an article last week about how they announced that none of the superstars were getting raises or anything like that this year, salary freeze. But look, it is what it is. I'm okay with it. What about you?
I wish the charity one wasn't an issue. I wish you could use your platform for charity stuff. That's my take, though. I think WWE does a lot for charities on all their different digital things and on television as well. That's my only huge gripe with it. But my thing is, where the line is. I've talked about this before. I worked for a company where we signed contracts like that. And where, things like you can't do that. They didn't own my name and likeness in that regard. I could do my own thing in terms of comedy, but I couldn't do it within conflict of the brand I worked under. And that brand had very stern regulations on, all right, well, if you say something and we feel it misrepresents the company in any way that we can interpret, we can do it. So that puts you in a tough position as well. It's another thing to note. If you're a WWE superstar under contract, what you say on your social media is reflective of you. Because think about that. How many people have said something on social media that gets them in trouble, many times justifiably so, right? and it affects their career on camera, like on a WWE superstar. It's happened many times.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this stuff happens to everybody.
Here's where I bounce back on that. If you go and do that, you reflect the company. So you made a great point with that. You signed a deal with a third party. It's maybe a controversial deal. Maybe you didn't vet the company. Did you do that with an agent? WWE's trying to be your agent in this regard. Obviously, they want a cut of it because they know you're getting that following because they're WWE. But I think there should be a balance between it. There should be a balance between those things. And if you're going to make those deals, then yeah, those should be the people that make the most money.
I mean, it's definitely a fine line. I think probably most of us, the people watching, me and you in particular, also, you always, you make a post on Facebook or Twitter, and then all of a sudden you go into work the next day and your HR department's like, hey, we saw you said this, but we would prefer if you take it down.
That's happened to you? Has that happened to you?
Yeah, that's happened to me before. More so commenting on maybe a post that they've made. Maybe they didn't like how I approached a customer or approached another comment, and they're like,
and that's like a customer service business. But to WWE, if someone blasts you and you get the cancel insert superstar here that we've seen before, that's not good. You know, that they don't look at that like as a good thing. And everyone says, oh, they're not listening to us when we don't want this person on camera because they did this one thing or they have this political opinion. Like it goes both ways. So when you start to open up those third-party relationships, as you mentioned, you open yourself up to more conflicts.
And I don't think they don't really get mad at a personal level. Like we've seen, especially this topic in the past week, Alexa Bliss has kind of been under fire from a certain fan treating her not nice. And she holds her ground and she replies back and, tells him off. I don't think this is something that's going to cause WWE to get mad at her about. I mean, she's not making any political statements. That I think is okay. But she's also not going on, for example, how Snickers is a sponsor for WWE for WrestleMania. She's not on there commenting saying, go get a Hershey Kiss bar or something, because then that's a conflict.
Oh, man. Look what you're doing. You're trying to start a candy bar war? We can't have that. Let's talk a little bit about Alexa Bliss. She made her presence known. I thought this was a fun part of Monday Night Raw. She did influence the presence of Randy Orton on the show with a bunch of Gaga, a bunch of Thunderdome, produced television magic where she took over every screen in the Thunderdome. Have they done that before? I don't think they have.
No, they haven't.
I thought that was really, really creepy and really, really cool. She also had a promo where she cut off Randy Orton. And she looked very, very creepy with her.
She's in the beginning stages of the reincarnation of the Fiend. She's bringing him back.
And she was in the middle of a pentagram that was drawn on the floor. I guess every goth kid in a high school is going to lose his mind seeing that, because I think there's a Venn diagram of goth high school kids, anime kids, and Alexa Bliss fans. All three of those circles are intersecting in some way. And I could see some people really, really losing their mind about this. Have they lost you on Alexa Bliss, Randy Orton, and the looming, haunting presence of the Fiend, who has not been seen on WWE television since mid-December when he was burned live?
No, they haven't lost me yet. I guess maybe I would say they're kind of getting close to that point, but I think we know the payoff's coming, so I think that's why me in particular, I'm not bothered by it because I know something's going to happen. But the impatient fan might be like, okay, this is old.
People already saying the Fiend will be at Elimination Chamber. Well, he was supposed to show up at the Royal Rumble. We didn't get him then. So
and that's what I mean. That's what I mean. People are like, well, he's not here this week. He's not there next week. And look, the people saying he's going to be there this Sunday. He's probably not going to be there this Sunday. But we clearly know what's going to happen at WrestleMania. I mean, it's obvious that Randy Orton and The Fiend are going to have a match of some sort. It's just, when does he come back? And what do you think? Do you think sooner rather than later?
Other people saying you won't see him until WrestleMania.
I've heard that too, but I wouldn't be against that. But maybe Fastlane. I don't know.
Who knows? It's a lot up in the air.
Never.
No, you will see him again.
It's old school Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, there's way too much investment in his character, I think, to not see him in WWE. Also, over on All Elite Wrestling, they had a presence on television tonight. Out of nowhere, relatively out of nowhere. They launched the first round of the Japanese bracket of the AEW Women's Tournament. This aired on YouTube. It got a pretty solid audience. Last time I checked, it was over 40,000, I believe, over 40,000 viewers. So there's bound to get more on that. And they have AEW Dark tomorrow. This is a part of their Women's Championship Tournament, the Championship Eliminator Tournament. Winner of this tournament will get a shot at the AEW World Championship, Women's World Championship, that is currently held by Hikaru Shida. Tonight's first four-round matches, I've not been able to see this just yet, but I've heard some really, really great things. Yuka Sakazaki, Mei Sakura, Veni versus Im Sakura. And we also had Maki Ito, who a lot of people thought was going to win. I heard was not the case. Against Ryo Mizunami and Aja Kong, the legendary Aja Kong versus Rin Kadokera. You can check those out now over on YouTube. And they have a lot to go to and develop the AEW women's division, which a lot of people have said pales in comparisons to NXT. But if you're a hardcore female wrestling fan, these are some cool names to check out that you've heard about, that you know some good things about. Some of these have appeared on AEW before. Pretty good lineup of top tier Japanese talent, right?
Absolutely, but I think you really got to be a hardcore to really be invested into this. I don't think this is really something the casuals are going to pay much attention to. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think that's the point of it. That's why these are on YouTube. I mean, if you are a hardcore fan, that's what you should go with. It could be interesting here. We do have fans bringing up, of course, the big news from this weekend as well was Impact's No Surrender pay-per-view, a valiant effort by Tommy Dreamer at 50 years old to become the world champion. It was not the case. Moose would attack him, so that's a big development coming out of the show. But also was the announcement at the end of the show, the doors continue to go down outside of WWE, at least, in terms of promotions collaborating with each other.
Yeah.
And in recent weeks, we've seen New Japan Pro Wrestling talent, specifically Kenta, appear on AEW Dynamite as he's attacking Jon Moxley, who's obviously already under contract with AEW on Wednesday nights on Dynamite. But he's also been allowed the caveat of being able to go over to Japan and defend the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship from time to time. Now it looks like that title will be defended in the United States at the New Japan Dojo area in California.
Crazy.
So this is quite crazy by everyone involved. It gets even bigger. For months, we've been seeing AEW and Impact collaborate, trading talent back and forth, mostly AEW talent appearing on Impact Television. And another name is going to appear on Impact Television from New Japan. Juice Robinson, and the son of Finley, David Finley. They've been a very popular tag team for the past 2 years. They have not been able to leave the United States due to all the different COVID restrictions, quarantining, all those different things you have to get over. Why not have them under the New Japan banner, go compete and do a tour of duty in Impact Wrestling? I'm into this idea. If all these different groups that aren't WWE are going to get together and try and do some really cool collaborations, I say, why not? More stuff for the fans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you saw the meme that's been going around. It's kind of like it's the Avengers. So on the top picture, it's like it shows a graphic of AEW, New Japan, Impact, and there was somebody else on there. And the one below it showed NXT, SmackDown, Raw, and Evolve, and it was like they're going after each other. And that's kind of how it feels like. It feels like all of the other companies are teaming up to try to even the odds. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you take all of those other promotions and add up their viewership numbers, it's pretty much equal to like what SmackDown is right now. And
why not? I don't see the issue. I mean, even if it's something you only do for a little while, why not do this?
But that's the thing. Is it only going to be a little while, or is this going to be a long-term thing? Because if it works, then that's what you got to keep doing.
No, I think you could eventually wean fans off of it too. I do think this is a smart thing to do as all these different brands, though Japan specifically, New Japan is for since the summer has been able to do events with limited fans. They've been able to they ran Tokyo Dome. They ran Tokyo Dome with like over 10,000 people at it, socially distanced, but they did it. And that's going to be a really good schematic for what WWE can do with WrestleMania. You have AEW. They've been running in front of fans since the summer as well in an amphitheater. But I do think this is a great thing for them to do, all these brands, because they're still not performing at full capacity. You know, they aren't, it doesn't feel like normal. So how do we shake up, quote unquote, the new normal in this perception of no fans, having to do a Thunderdome, having to do limited capacity, these things that are somewhat versions of what we're used to, when the real thing we want is we want this behind me. We want the Thunderdome. We want a full audience and a full crowd. We want that full magic that surrounds wrestling with the boos and the yays and the cheers. That missing magic, it can be there if you tell these fans, hey, you're not just going to see AEW live when you can buy tickets to AEW live. God damn it, you could see some guys from Impact. You could see some guys from New Japan. What are you going to get? It's going to build. I think it's going to build up anticipation for all of these bands that are brands that are working together. And noted, it's AEW also really is giving the most media exposure to some of these other brands because they have the biggest television platform.
The forbidden door is never truly opened until somebody shows up in WWE that's still signed under them. You have to agree there. You have to agree. You have to agree though. Come on, you don't agree? Like, what would you say if like John Moxley just showed up to Raw one night? Like,
it's not going to happen.
People would lose their minds, though.
It's not going to happen, but it's
well, yeah, because they don't want WWE to go up anymore, and that would make them go up.
Oh, also WWE wouldn't want to do that anyway. I don't think that would happen here, guys.
Don't make them look like the bad guys.
Of course, you show your bias here pretty easily. You show your bias pretty easily here, and a lot of people. Texting in their different things. Thumbs up to AEW, New Japan, Impact working together. They're into the idea. I'm into the idea as well. I think it's good. It's good for wrestling. It's good for wrestling. Let's talk about the free agent names that signed with WWE over the weekend. Eli Drake appeared on the pre-show for NXT TakeOver. You and I get to talk about this a little bit. He is now known as LA Knight. We also can report that it is widespread across the wrestling industry that Taya Valkyrie, the longest reigning Impact Knockouts Women's Champion, has signed a deal with WWE, though neither party has confirmed it. We also can tell you that Harlem Bravado, a longtime veteran of the Evolve promotion, you may have seen him as well in Ring of Honor and Independence along the East Coast, has signed with WWE. We've heard, though, those are the three names that we can talk about at the moment, but we've heard that WWE has signed a lot of different talent recently, and they have signed a lot of them.
There was at least 10 people.
At least 10 different people. We've heard some other names talked about, but when those names aren't even alluding to anything, it's harder to find this out because not a lot of independent wrestling events are running. Usually you can find out when someone signs with a major promotion when they start to pull themselves out of upcoming independent dates. We don't have that usual pattern within the industry to follow, which is easier to kind of find the scoops. They're kind of on the surface if you just go looking for them a little bit. This isn't that case. What other names that are out there that you know of that you would like to see WWE get or try and roll the dice with? I mean, there's some that maybe some people may not know are under contract or the end of their deal is coming up. You know, it's getting interesting. You know, Ring of Honor signed up a lot of different people recently to new deals, including Roosh, their world champion, and Dragon Kid. So, I mean, you have these other companies, seeing what WWE's doing, and you had to think that some of those guys were in play at some point in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, the big name that we were discussing the past couple of weeks had been Jay White. It appears that that's not going to happen anymore, though. But that was just at the top of the list there. There's a few interesting names that have been in WWE before that could possibly come back, and some that jump out to me are Damian Sandow is one that jumped out to me. Obviously, we have Carlito is still around. I know AOP hasn't been gone too long, but they're still a team that, I mean, they're lacking in tag teams right now. You never know there. And dare I say, Enzo and Cass are free agents too.
I do think the Enzo and Cass thing would surprise some people. There was some rumblings of them. They appeared at the big Ring of Honor Madison Square Garden show 2 years ago. Ring of Honor just didn't seal a deal with that team that was trending number one the night of the WWE Hall of Fame. At one point, they were trending above them and made a big splash. A lot of Ring of Honor fans were not kind to the idea. It's a pure wrestling brand. Here are two very sports entertainment properties coming in. There were some people in the match that they interrupted that were not aware of that situation, who were not too keen on it. And then you had a situation with Cass kind of taking himself out of wrestling for mental health issues. There was a situation at a wrestling show with WrestlePro after that was quite ugly for him in that regard. He was somebody who was already dealing with some of those mental health problems. And we haven't heard from that team since. Now, we know that Enzo is still active on social media, doing things like OnlyFans and producing content. Is still active in that regard. Says he wants to do wrestling, but does not want to do it in front of no audience. I do think he would be a huge acquisition in terms of names that are out there that are big. But if you look at these names, these are people that we haven't seen in WWE, or at least we haven't seen in WWE recently. Drake would be an exception. He was in NXT for a period of time.
Moriarty.
Yes. Lee Moriarty would be a huge name. He would be one of the biggest ones you could get from GCW that I think they would want. He has a look they would like. They like themselves a fast, charismatic cruiserweight that they can create into a hot new character and a guy who can certainly cut a promo. I think he would. What? What'd you say, buddy?
How to give a shout out to Pittsburgh. He's from Pittsburgh.
He's a Pittsburgh boy. He's a PA boy. Other people talking about different names that they would like to see sign with WWE. We've heard this one in the past few weeks. Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy Smith Jr., the son of the British Bulldog. He performed in WWE under the name D.H. Hart in the past. He did have a contract with them for a few years. He was developed in the system. He was a prominent member on Raw and SmackDown at various different times. He was in the Hart Dynasty and then left WWE and was not too kind of how he got to leave WWE, though he had a very successful run in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he got to hold the heavyweight championship there with Lance Archer. Did some great stuff with the Suzuki Gun Squadron. Had a very solid run with MLW, and has even alluded to the fact that, yeah, maybe NXT could be in my future, and it's something I would want to do. And his father is being inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame at some point. We don't know when it's going to be. That was part of the delayed Hall of Fame class from last year. And he participated in a documentary recently about his father. I think that would be a really, really big name for NXT to pick up, because you're not just getting any Davey Boy Smith. You're getting one with a lot more experience under his belt from Japan and MLW, away from WWE, and already knows how to work within that system in terms of how the matches are produced and filmed and all those different things. I think Davey Boy Smith would be a huge name for WWE to pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a wild card name for sure. And I see this comment from Nick here about Tessa. That's another interesting name to consider.
Tessa Blanchard is an interesting name to consider, but when you do business with Tessa Blanchard, you do business with Tessa Blanchard's reputation, which sort of precedes her. The skinny is pretty quick here. Tessa Blanchard becomes the first Impact World Champion, defeating Sami Callihan in an intergender world title main event at Hard to Kill, or in the early part of the pandemic year that would be 2020, before the pandemic really got going. And it happened the same week that allegations of her saying some very, very vulgar and racist things years prior on a women's wrestling tour of Japan in a locker room with a diverse multicultural locker room. She said that. And then there was accusations of her being rough on rookie wrestlers, her being unprofessional work with her. Many, many noteworthy people in wrestling making these allegations towards her, or at least vaguely stating them, just before she's supposed to win this world title. And she won it. And Impact Wrestling stayed in there and stayed in the business, only for her to basically not want to get off the grid and risk anything during the pandemic. And her contract was coming up.
She didn't want to drop the belt.
And she never even dropped the belt. And they had to, make do and have a vacant title match situation at the Slammiversary pay-per-view. This is a Tessa Blanchard that already worked for WWE in the Mae Young Classic and worked for them sporadically in NXT, but never secured a deal there. She is a second-generation wrestler. Her father, Tully Blanchard, part of the famed Four Horsemen. So they do like people with a pedigree. But you also have somebody that they didn't sign before, and all these other things happened. This is a risk. We brought up, buying some bad attention. I don't know if WWE wants to buy that in WrestleMania season.
Yeah, maybe after. I guess I get what you're saying, but they definitely should keep her on the radar, though.
And of course, we've heard a lot of people saying this one's just bound to happen. Wasn't Eva Marie supposed to show up in WWE?
We've heard that a few times, but I guess she's still, training. Andrade will be back eventually at some point. I see the comment here about Kyrie saying she's probably waiting on that launch of NXT Asia or NXT, whatever it was called, Japan.
Or you'll see her pop up in Stardom, which is the women's league of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
What's not?
Well, oh, you just want her to stay in WWE. Look at you, John Clark. You are just a homer. Why don't you just take a road trip down to Stanford? All right, and
I've been there.
You wave to the building from the parking lot. Oh man, did you have fun with this? I had fun. Did you have fun, John Clark? Did you have a fun old time talking to wrestling with me here? A little bit. What would you rate the show? What would you rate today's show on the scale 1 to 10?
6.9.
Oh, you're gross. You're gross. You went for the grossest number you could. You're
7. I could have gave it a 4.20 out of 10.
you could be what? You extra high school? What are you just? You're like one of those kids that discovered AOL Instant Messenger back in the 90s and just wants to type all the bad words and send it to his friends. You can follow John Clark on the Twitter machine. Where do they go?
John R. Clark 12. It was in a little box here, but it went away.
Okay.
I just not realized it wasn't there.
I'm trying to see how I can do that in the box here. If there's anything I can do to do that.
All right, you gotta take the comment down.
Okay, maybe that's what does it here. So you can also follow me on the Twitter machine at Kev Kellum as well. Give me a follow there. Working on some new things for comedy shows coming up in March. Keeping my quarantine. Thank you to everyone that checked out the shows. If you didn't get to check them out, I did some streaming live comedy shows from a great comedy club that's doing everything in the safest way they can with a small audience. 20 people is a sellout. Did you know that? 20 people in a pandemic is a sellout when you do it under the right regulations. And guess what? We sold out all 3 shows. Selling them out with Rena Calm this past weekend. But we streamed the shows as well. You want to do something really fun. You want some live entertainment that is live at home and you don't have to be there and you don't feel you're taking any risks or anything like that. Go to laughingtap.com. Buy some tickets every weekend. There's some great comedians coming up. Show's $10. You know, that's $10 you'd spend at a bar if you were going out already. You stay home, you enjoy that with somebody. Definitely give it a shot. Let me know that you do it. Give them a follow over on the Twitter machine at thelaughingtap.com. One of the best comedy clubs in America, doing it right and trying to find their way around the pandemic as well. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. If you haven't done it already, hit the like button and share this video or this podcast with your friends. For you guys on the podcast side of things, here's something we need. We need you to give us a review. If you listen to us talk for over 50 minutes, go ahead and give us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcast. 5-star review, okay? And go tell us what you like about the podcast. You don't want to give us a good review? Don't even type it. Just think it, say it out loud, and let it go out into the air. Also, I know you guys like prizes, and I have several copies of this wonderful little book, The Road to WrestleMania Trivia and Activity Book, for you geeks and marks out there. All right, geeks and marks of all ages. You could win this in the weeks ahead. Also, we got more action figures to give away, so that's pretty cool. Keep an eye on the podcast. We'll be talking about that and so much more. Make sure your notifications on. And remember, when watching wrestling, do the most important thing that we tell you all the time on WrestleZone. What is that? Mr. John R. Clark.
You got it. You do the honor.
I do it?
You do it.
Thanks.
It's been a while.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Clark. You just got to enjoy wrestling. Oh, gee golly whiz. All right.